Lucas Hale asked me to give my wedding dress to his pregnant mistress 20 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. He did it in front of my bridesmaids, the wedding planner, and the woman carrying his child. Serena Brooks stood behind him with one hand on her stomach and the other already touching the lace at my waist, as if my dress, my wedding, and my future had always been waiting for her to claim them. I looked at Lucas in the mirror. His tie was crooked, his face was pale, but his voice was steady when he said, "Ava, she is pregnant, she is overwhelmed. Let her wear it for a few pictures. You can change into something else." Something else. I had spent 9 months designing that dress with Marla, the same seamstress who had stitched my grandmother's initials inside the lining. I had paid for it myself. I had chosen every inch of silk, every pearl button, every quiet detail that made it mine, and Lucas looked at me as if I were being selfish for not handing it over. Behind him, Serena sniffed softly. "I know this is awkward," she whispered, "but the baby kicked when I saw it. Maybe that means something." My bridesmaid Jenna went completely still. I did not scream, I did not slap him, I did not beg him to explain. I simply reached behind me, turned on the voice recorder on my phone and asked, "Are you telling me to take off my wedding dress so your pregnant mistress can wear it?" Lucas flinched, then he made the mistake that ended everything. He said, "Just this once, Ava, do not make this harder than it has to be." I looked down at my engagement ring, then I took it off. The bridal suite smelled like white roses, hairspray, and the kind of expensive perfume my future mother-in-law had chosen because she said it made the room feel old money. I had laughed when she said it that morning. By noon, nothing felt funny. I stood in front of the full-length mirror in my custom wedding dress while my best friend, Jenna Cole, adjusted the pearl buttons at my back. Jenna was not only my bridesmaid, she was also the wedding planner. She had spent 6 months keeping this wedding from collapsing under the weight of Lucas's mother's demands. More champagne towers, more imported orchids, more engraved silver place cards, more everything. Eleanor Hale had turned our wedding into a public restoration of the Hale family name. She had called it a union of 2 families. But over the past year I had slowly realized what she really meant. Ava Bennett would pay, the Hales would shine. Still, I loved Lucas, or I loved the man I thought Lucas had been before family pride, unpaid loans, and old money panic turned him into someone who could look me in the eyes and ask me to disappear inside my own wedding. A knock came at the door. Jenna glanced at her clipboard. "That cannot be the photographer, we still have 12 minutes. The door opened before she reached it. Lucas walked in. He looked beautiful in his black tuxedo. That was the cruel thing. Betrayal did not always arrive looking ugly, sometimes it came wearing cufflinks you had bought for it. Behind him stood Serena Brooks. She wore a pale satin slip dress under a cream coat. Her blonde hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders. Her face was carefully bare, the kind of bare that took an hour of makeup to create. One hand rested on the round curve of her stomach. For 2 seconds I did not understand what I was seeing. My mind rejected it. Serena was Lucas's ex-girlfriend, his first love, his college almost, the woman Eleanor used to mention with a soft sigh before pretending she had not. Lucas had told me she was history. Apparently, history had learned how to knock on bridal suite doors. "Lucas," I said slowly, "why is she here?" His jaw tightened. Jenna stepped forward. "The groom is not supposed to see the bride before the ceremony." Serena gave a small, broken laugh. "I am sorry, I told him this was a bad idea." Lucas did not look at Jenna, he looked only at me. "Ava, I need you to stay calm." It was strange how quickly those words cooled something inside me. Men said stay calm when they had already decided to hurt you and wanted you to make it convenient. "What happened?" I asked. Serena lowered her eyes, her fingers pressed into her stomach. Lucas took a breath. "Serena is pregnant." The room went silent. Jenna's clipboard slipped slightly in her hand. My own reflection stared back at me, white dress, steady face, eyes beginning to sharpen. I waited. Lucas rubbed a hand over his mouth. "It is mine." There it was, 6 years of dinners, holidays, hospital visits, shared plans, mortgage discussions, and late-night promises reduced to 3 words. "It is mine." I should have cried, maybe some part of me did, but it happened so deep inside that no one in the room got the satisfaction of seeing it. "How far along?" I asked. Serena looked up, surprised. Lucas answered for her. 4 months. 4 months ago, I had been in Boston for a restoration conference. Lucas had said he was staying at Hale Mansion to help his mother sort through old family papers. He had sent me a photo of the library fireplace. I had sent him a heart. I almost laughed. Jenna whispered, "Ava." But Lucas stepped closer. "We can talk about all of this later," he said. "Right now we have a problem." I looked past him at Serena. Her gaze moved from my face to my dress. A slow, sick understanding moved through me. "No," I said. Lucas's expression hardened. "You do not even know what I am going to ask." "I do." Serena touched her stomach again. "I never meant to ruin your day." "That is interesting," I said, "because you came dressed for it." Her mouth trembled. Lucas's voice dropped. "Do not attack her." I finally looked at him directly. "You brought your pregnant mistress into my bridal suite 20 minutes before our wedding. What tone would make you comfortable?" His face flushed. Jenna moved toward the door. "I am getting security," Lucas snapped. "No one is getting security." That was the first time I heard it. Not panic, not regret, control. He still believed he had control over the room. He still believed he had control over me. Serena took one step forward. "Lucas, please, this is humiliating enough." I stared at her. She was not humiliated. Her eyes were wet, but her chin was raised. Her hand kept drifting toward the lace sleeve of my dress as though she could not help herself. Lucas exhaled. "She has been under a lot of stress. The pregnancy has been difficult. She came because she needed to see me before I married you." "Touching," I said. "She saw the dress," he continued, "and she broke down. Because of my dress." "Ava, say it clearly." He looked annoyed, then actually annoyed, as if I were slowing down a reasonable discussion. "She wants to wear it for a few pictures." Jenna made a sharp sound. "Absolutely not." Lucas ignored her. I did not move. "Pictures," Serena spoke softly. "Not during the ceremony. I would never do that to you." I turned to her. "How generous." Her cheeks colored. Lucas said, "She may never have a wedding, Ava." That hit me in a place I did not expect. Not because I felt sorry for her, because I suddenly understood the whole shape of it. Serena was pregnant. Lucas felt guilty. Eleanor wanted the Hale name protected. The wedding guests were downstairs. The money had been spent. The deposits had cleared. The family needed the marriage, so I was expected to bend again. "You can wear the reception dress," Lucas said quickly. "Or we can send someone to the boutique. You look beautiful in anything." Jenna stepped between us. "This dress was custom made for Ava. It has her grandmother's initials stitched inside." Serena's eyes flicked to the mirror. "I did not know that." But she did not step back. Lucas softened his voice. The voice he used when he wanted me to feel unreasonable for having a boundary. "Ava, it is just fabric. Just fabric, not the dress I had paid for. Not the dress I had chosen for the day I thought I was marrying the man I loved. Not the dress his mistress wanted to wear while carrying his child. Just fabric." I reached behind me, found my phone on the vanity, and pressed the record button without looking down. Then I asked, "Are you telling me to take off my wedding dress so your pregnant mistress can wear it?" Lucas's eyes moved to my hand. "Too late, Ava," he warned. "Answer me," Serena whispered. "Please do not make me sound like that. You made yourself sound like that when you walked in." Lucas's jaw worked. "Just this once. Do not make this harder than it has to be." Jenna stared at him as if she had never seen a man destroy himself in real time. I looked at Lucas's hand, the hand that had held mine at my father's funeral, the hand that had signed thank you cards with me, the hand that had taken checks from me for roof repairs at Hale Mansion, for Eleanor's charity luncheon, for the property tax emergency he swore was temporary. That hand now reached toward my veil. I stepped back. "Do not touch me." He froze for the first time. Fear crossed his face, not fear of losing me, fear that I might make a scene. Downstairs, 200 guests waited beneath white flowers and polished chandeliers. The string quartet was probably tuning. Eleanor was probably telling someone that Hale men never cried, but Lucas might when he saw me. I almost wanted to see her face. I reached for my engagement ring. Lucas watched my fingers close around it. "Ava," he said quickly, "do not be dramatic." That was when the last soft part of me folded in on itself and became something harder. I pulled the ring off. It had cost less than Eleanor told people. I knew because I had seen the insurance paperwork. Lucas had been embarrassed, so I never corrected anyone when Eleanor hinted it was an heirloom diamond. It was not an heirloom, it was a promise, and promises could be returned. I placed it on the vanity beside the lipstick I would no longer need. The wedding is cancelled, I said. Serena gasped. Lucas went white. You cannot cancel the wedding. I looked at him through the mirror. I just did. He stepped closer. Ava, listen to yourself. People are here, my family is here. So is your mistress. His eyes flashed. She is carrying my child. And I was supposed to carry your name. That shut him up for one clean second. Nobody moved. Then the door opened again. Eleanor Hale swept in wearing silver silk and pearls, her hair pinned so tightly it looked painful. She took in the room with one glance. Lucas pale, Serena teary, me in my wedding dress, the ring on the vanity. Her mouth thinned. What have you done? She asked. I almost smiled. Not what has he done, what have you done? Eleanor went to Lucas first, then Serena, touching her arm with shocking tenderness. Then she turned to me. Ava, this is not the time for pride. No, I said, this is exactly the time. Her eyes sharpened. You will not embarrass this family in front of everyone we know. This family embarrassed itself. Lower your voice. My voice is already lower than this deserves. Lucas said, Mom, let me handle it. You handled enough, I said. Eleanor inhaled sharply. The ceremony will proceed. Ava, you will change into another dress if this one is causing distress. Serena will rest upstairs. After the reception, the four of us will discuss what needs to be done. I stared at her. That was the plan. Bury the pregnant mistress upstairs. Put the useful bride in a substitute dress. Smile for the guests. Cash the wedding checks. Secure the marriage. Deal with the humiliation later. When I was legally tied to them, maybe that plan would have worked on the Ava of 3 years ago, the Ava who thought love meant patience, the Ava who believed Lucas when he said the mansion only needed one more repair, one more payment, one more season, the Ava who thought Eleanor's coldness would melt once I became family. But the woman in the mirror was not melting. She was watching, recording, remembering. I picked up my phone. Eleanor's eyes dropped to it. What is that? Proof. Lucas lunged before thinking. Jenna moved faster, stepping between us and raising her voice. Do not touch her. The room outside went quiet. Good, let people hear, let the walls carry it. Lucas stopped, breathing hard. I gathered the front of my dress and walked to the door. Eleanor hissed. If you walk out now, you will regret it for the rest of your life. I looked back at Lucas. The man I had loved stood beside the woman carrying his child, asking me with his eyes to be reasonable. Reasonable meant silent, reasonable meant useful, reasonable meant erased. No, I said, I think this is the first thing I will not regret. Then I opened the bridal suite door. The hallway was full of staff, flowers, camera equipment, and stunned faces. At the far end, the doors to the sanctuary stood open. The music had started. I walked toward it. Every step down that hallway felt like leaving a version of myself behind. The dress was heavy, but not as heavy as the silence following me. Behind me, Lucas called my name once. I did not stop. Jenna walked beside me. She had abandoned the clipboard and was now holding my train with one hand and her phone with the other. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. What do you want me to do? Keep recording, I said. She nodded. The church coordinator saw me and smiled automatically, then froze when she realized I had no bouquet and no veil over my face. Ava, we are ready for you. I need the microphone. Her eyes widened. The microphone. Yes. She glanced behind me. Lucas was coming fast now, with Eleanor behind him and Serena moving slowly at his side like a wounded saint in a cream coat. The coordinator stepped aside. That small act almost broke me. A stranger understood my right to speak faster than the man I had planned to marry. I walked through the side door into the sanctuary. 200 people turned. The string quartet stumbled into silence. White roses climbed the pews. Candles flickered near the altar. Lucas's friends sat on one side, polished and curious. My co-workers and distant relatives sat on the other, smiling at first, then slowly losing their smiles. At the front, the pastor blinked. My father was dead. My mother had passed when I was 26. There was no one waiting to walk me down the aisle. I had once told Lucas that walking alone felt sad. He had kissed my forehead and said, then walk toward me. Now I walked toward no one. I stopped halfway down the aisle. The coordinator handed me the wireless microphone with shaking fingers. Lucas reached the back of the sanctuary. Ava, he said too loudly. Do not. That was his second mistake. Everyone heard him. A ripple moved through the guests. I turned to face them. My hands were cold, but my voice did not shake. Thank you all for coming. I said, I am sorry for the confusion. There will be no wedding today. The sound that followed was not a gasp, it was worse, it was 100 small breaths catching at once. Eleanor pushed forward. This is a private family matter. I looked at her. It became public when your son brought his pregnant mistress into my bridal suite and asked me to give her my wedding dress. Someone dropped a program. Lucas closed his eyes. Serena made a soft, wounded noise. Eleanor's face turned a color I had never seen on her before. Ava, she said through her teeth, stop. But I had stopped too many times. I had stopped asking why Lucas missed dinners. I had stopped questioning why Serena's name appeared in old messages. I had stopped objecting when Eleanor introduced me as Lucas's practical choice. As if love were a spreadsheet and I was the column marked available funds. I had stopped defending myself. That ended in the aisle. I looked at the guests again. I will not be marrying Lucas Hale. The reception is cancelled. Anyone who traveled for me, I am sorry. Anyone who traveled for the Hale family can ask them for an explanation. A nervous laugh broke somewhere near the back. It died quickly. Lucas began walking down the aisle toward me. His face had changed. The polished groom was gone. The man coming toward me was angry, embarrassed, and desperate to regain control. Give me the microphone, he said. No, this is not who you are. That almost got a laugh from me. No, Lucas, this is exactly who I am when I finally stop protecting you. His mouth tightened. You are humiliating yourself. I looked past him to Serena. She stood at the back, one hand on her stomach, her eyes wide. But beneath the performance, I saw something else. Calculation. She had expected tears, maybe a slap, maybe a collapsed bride escorted away while Lucas and Eleanor spun the story. She had not expected me to narrate the truth before anyone could edit it. Jenna stepped into the aisle beside me. As wedding planner, she said clearly, I can confirm Mr. Hale entered the bridal suite with Ms. Brooks. Shortly before the ceremony, I can also confirm Ms. Bennett did not invite Ms. Brooks. A murmur passed through the church. Lucas stared at Jenna. Stay out of this. Jenna lifted her phone. I am already in it. Eleanor moved fast for a woman in 4-inch heels. She came toward me with her hand outstretched. Give me that phone. I stepped back. The pastor, bless him, finally found his spine. Mrs. Hale, he said, please do not touch the bride. Bride, the word hit me and passed through. I was no longer a bride, I was a witness. Eleanor stopped, trembling with rage. You have no idea what you are doing, she said. I know exactly what I am doing. You will destroy Lucas. No, I said. Lucas did that before lunch. A few people gasped. Someone whispered, pregnant. Lucas looked around as if searching for an ally. His groomsmen would not meet his eyes. His cousin stared at the floor. His uncle looked furious, but not at me. Good, let them feel the cost of public truth. Lucas lowered his voice. Ava, please, we can still fix this. I looked at the man who had asked me to give my wedding dress to his mistress and saw him clearly for the first time. He did not want to fix us, he wanted to fix the scene. There is no us to fix. His face cracked for half a second. I saw panic that almost looked like grief. Then Eleanor spoke behind him. Think carefully, she said. The deposits, the contracts, the house arrangements, you signed documents. There it was again, money, not love, not trust, not even shame. Contracts I held up my left hand, the finger was bare. I did sign documents, I also kept copies. Eleanor went still. Lucas's eyes darted to her. It was small, but I caught it. Fear, a different kind of fear. I did not know yet what exact secret lived between them, but I knew where to look. The ceremony dissolved after that. Guests stood awkwardly, some left quickly, eager to escape scandal, others lingered because scandal had gravity. My aunt hugged me near the side door and whispered, you did the right thing. A woman from Lucas's mother's charity board squeezed my hand and said nothing at all, which somehow meant more. Serena disappeared into a hallway with Lucas's arm around her. That image should have hurt, it did, but not cleanly. The pain came mixed with disgust, relief, and a hard new awareness that I had been grieving a man who had not existed for some time. Jenna pulled me into a small waiting room near the church office. Sit, she said. I need my laptop. You need water. I need both. She handed me water first. Because she was Jenna, my phone would not stop vibrating. Texts from guests, calls from Lucas, 3 calls from Eleanor, 1 message from an unknown number. You made a mistake today. I stared at it. Then another message arrived. This is bigger than your feelings. I saved both. Jenna sat across from me. Do you want me to call Priya? I nodded. Priya Mason had been my lawyer for 5 years. She had helped me set up my business, review client contracts, and most recently draft a prenuptial agreement. Lucas had delayed signing 3 times. At first he said he wanted his own lawyer to review it, then his lawyer got busy, then Eleanor said prenups were cold, then Lucas said, "Can we not make love feel like a negotiation?" That line had worked on me then, it would not work now. Priya answered on the second ring. "Ava, should you not be getting married?" "No," I said, "I cancelled it." There was one beat of silence, then her voice changed. "Are you safe?" That question nearly made me cry. "Not are you sure not what happened? Are you safe?" "Yes." "Good, tell me the facts." So I did. I told her about Serena, the pregnancy, the dress, Lucas's request, Eleanor's threat, the cancelled ceremony. I told her Jenna had recordings and that the church likely had hallway cameras. I told her Lucas had tried to take my phone. Priya listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Do not speak to Lucas alone, do not sign anything, do not agree to reimburse anything, do not delete messages, forward me everything. I will, any wedding accounts tied to your card." My stomach tightened. Yes, the reception balance, the floral overage, maybe the transportation. Call the bank now, freeze the card, dispute any post-cancellation charges. I will send written notice to the vendors. Jenna was already opening her laptop. Priya continued. "What about joint accounts? We do not have one." "Good." Then she paused. "Ava, did Lucas ever sign the prenup?" "No." "Then he has no claim to your premarital assets, but given what happened today, they may try to pressure you into a private settlement." They already started. Of course they did. Outside the waiting room, footsteps passed, voices murmured. My wedding was being dismantled in real time. Flowers removed, candles blown out, programs gathered from pews, a life undone by staff on hourly rates. Priya asked, "Do you still have the ring?" "No. I left it on the vanity. Have Jenna retrieve it if possible. If not, document that." Jenna stood immediately. On it. She left. I sat alone in a white dress that suddenly felt like evidence. My phone buzzed again. Lucas. I did not answer. Then a bank notification dropped down across the screen. Hale Wedding Events attempted a charge of $18,740.00 declined. I stared at it. Hale Wedding Events tried again. Declined. A third attempt followed. This time from a vendor account linked to Eleanor's florist. Declined. My hands went very still. The wedding had been cancelled less than 20 minutes ago, and someone was already trying to push charges through before I could shut the door. Another message came from Eleanor. "Do not make financial decisions while emotional." I looked at the declined charges, then I forwarded everything to Priya. My reply to Eleanor was simple. "All further communication goes through my attorney." I sent it, then I blocked her. For the first time all day, I breathed. I spent my wedding night in a hotel room I had booked for guests who had cancelled last minute. The irony was not lost on me. The suite had champagne on ice, rose petals on the bed, and a handwritten card from the manager wishing Mr. and Mrs. Hale a lifetime of happiness. Jenna found me staring at it. "Want me to throw it away?" she asked. "No." I picked up the card, tore it in half, and dropped it into the trash myself. I needed to do that. She nodded and set 3 garment bags across the chair. My wedding dress was not among them. I had not expected it to be. Jenna's mouth tightened. The bridal suite was cleared before I got back. "Your ring was gone too, Lucas." Eleanor's assistant said she collected personal items for safekeeping. I laughed once. Safekeeping, that family could make theft sound like etiquette. "Did you get footage?" "Church hallway, yes. Bridal suite interior, no cameras obviously. But the hallway shows Lucas entering with Serena and leaving after you. It also shows Eleanor going in after the ceremony was cancelled." "Good." Jenna sat beside me. "Ava, I am sorry. That was when the first real wave hit, not in the church, not when Lucas said Serena was pregnant, not when I cancelled the wedding, but sitting in a hotel room with rose petals on the bed and my best friend looking at me like she was afraid I might break." I bent forward and pressed my palms to my eyes. For a minute, I let it happen. The grief, the humiliation, the memory of Lucas laughing with me in paint-splattered jeans while we restored the old reading room at Hale Mansion, the way he had looked at me then, or the way I thought he had looked at me the first Christmas after my mother died when Eleanor had criticized the pie I brought and Lucas had squeezed my hand under the table. The night he proposed in the mansion garden beneath broken string lights and promised me he wanted a life that was honest, simple, And hours, had there ever been an honest version of him, or had I loved a man in need and mistaken need for devotion? Jenna did not touch me, she just sat there until I lowered my hands. Then she said, "What do you need?" "My laptop." She passed it over. Grief could sit in the room but it would not drive. I opened my banking folders. The first file was labeled Hale Shared Expenses. I had created it 2 years earlier when Lucas asked for help tracking repairs at the mansion. The roof had leaked, the west balcony needed structural work, the insurance company had delayed payment temporary. He said, I believed him. There was the first transfer, $12,000 to Hale restoration vendor, then $8,450, then $31,200 for emergency masonry work, then $6,700 for Eleanor's charity event because she had cash flow timing issues, then $22,000 for property tax penalties Lucas swore he would repay after a client payment cleared, then more, so much more. I had not been stupid, that was important to say, even if only to myself. I had records, I had emails, I had repayment notes. I had not handed them blank checks, but I had been trusting, and trust, in the wrong hands, became a payment plan for your own betrayal. By midnight, Jenna had fallen asleep in the armchair under a hotel robe. I was still awake, building a spreadsheet. Priya called at 7:10 the next morning. "I have bad news and useful news," she said. "Start with useful. The wedding vendors are cooperating. Most had not completed final billing. I sent notice that no further charges are authorized. Your card freeze stopped several attempts. Eleanor, likely. Bad news. Lucas's attorney contacted me at 6:30 a.m. I closed my eyes. What does he want? To resolve this quietly. He claims you caused reputational damage by making private information public." I looked at the blank wall across from the bed. "He brought his pregnant mistress into my bridal suite." "Yes, I enjoyed pointing that out. Despite everything," I smiled. Priya continued, "They also hinted that because you cancelled the wedding, you may be responsible for unrecoverable costs." Of course they did. I asked for documentation. I suspect many expenses were routed through accounts controlled by Eleanor. I opened the spreadsheet. "I have something. Send it. It is more than something." "How much?" I looked at the total. My throat tightened. $286,000 over 3 years. Priya was silent, then she said very softly, "Ava, I know. Were these loans? Some documented as loans, some as advances, some as shared future household expenses. Did Lucas repay any?" "About 12,000. Send everything. I will." "There is something else," Priya said. "I heard paper moving. I pulled preliminary property records on Hale Mansion after you mentioned the charges last night." My pulse slowed. "Lucas loved that house." No, that was not right. Lucas needed that house. Hale Mansion was not just a home, it was the Hale family's last proof that they still belonged in rooms where money spoke softly and everyone listened. "What did you find?" I asked. "The property is heavily encumbered, 2 mortgages, 1 private bridge loan, several liens. A foreclosure notice was filed 6 weeks ago." 6 weeks, during cake tastings, during dance lessons, during Lucas telling me his mother was just stressed about wedding flowers. 6 weeks ago. I repeated, "Yes." Did Lucas know? He would have had to. Notices were sent to the registered address and to his family attorney. I stood up and walked to the window below. The city moved as if nothing had happened. Cars, coffee cups, people going to work somewhere. Lucas was probably telling himself I would calm down. He did not know calm had arrived. Calm was far more dangerous than grief, Priya said. "There is a note in the bridge loan documents. It references expected liquidity after marriage." The room narrowed. What does that mean? It could mean many things. A planned refinancing based on combined assets, a contribution from you, a sale. But given the timing, I would like to see any documents Lucas or Eleanor asked you to sign recently. I thought of Eleanor's comment in the church, the deposits, the contracts, the house arrangements. "You signed documents." My hands went cold. "I signed a preliminary household budget last month." I said, "Not legal," I thought, "just a planning document." Lucas said the bank wanted to see post-wedding household stability. "Send it now." I did. Priya stayed on the phone while she opened it. Her silence lasted too long. "Ava," she said finally, "this is not just a household budget." "What is it?" "It references a proposed marital residence contribution." I gripped the phone. In normal English. It suggests you intended to contribute up to $400,000 toward debt stabilization for Hale Mansion after marriage. No, I know you may not have understood it that way. No, Priya, no, Lucas told me it was a budget estimate. He said it was not binding. It may not be enforceable as written, but it tells us what they were planning. I sat down slowly. Lucas had not just cheated, he had brought Serena to the wedding carrying his child while his family expected my money to save their house. And when the mistress cried over my dress, they expected me to step aside politely so the machine could keep running. That was not heartbreak, that was fraud wearing a boutonniere. Jenna woke up when I started laughing, not loudly, not happily, just enough for her to sit up and say, "Should I be worried?" "No," I said. "I found the reason they needed the wedding to continue." Priya said, "Do not confront him yet." "I will not." "Good, we need documents, bank records, communications, witnesses, the dress invoice, the prenup drafts, everything. I have them." "And Ava?" "Yes, you need to prepare yourself. Once they realize you are not coming back, they will change tactics, first guilt, then threats, then nostalgia." I looked at my bare left hand. What comes after nostalgia? Desperation. 3 hours later, Lucas sent flowers to the hotel. White roses. The card said, "We need to talk like adults. I love you." I photographed the card, then I asked the front desk to return the flowers. At noon, Serena posted a photo. She was standing in front of a tall mirror in a room I recognized immediately, the bridal suite. She wore my wedding dress. It did not fit her properly. The back was open, pinned badly at the waist to make room for her stomach. My grandmother's initials were hidden beneath her hand. Her caption read, "Some love stories take the long way home." I stared at the photo. Jenna looked over my shoulder and whispered, "That witch." A second later, a private message arrived from Serena. "You lost him, the house is next." I took a screenshot. Then I sent it to Priya. Serena's photo spread faster than truth. By evening, 3 gossip accounts had reposted it. Not because Lucas was famous in any meaningful way, but because old money scandals had a special flavor. People loved watching families with portraits in dining rooms behave like alley cats. The comments were a mess. "Is that the bride's dress? Wait, wasn't Lucas Hale supposed to marry someone else today? Pregnant? This is either romantic or insane." I sat in Jenna's kitchen wearing borrowed sweatpants and read until my stomach turned cold. Then I closed the app. Jenna placed a mug of tea in front of me. "Do not look." I needed to see the caption. "For legal reasons or emotional self-harm reasons." "Both." She sat across from me. "Fair." My phone buzzed. Marla Danvers, the seamstress who made my dress, had a voice like warm linen and the temper of a general. I answered. "Ava," she said, "tell me that is not my dress on that woman." "It is." A pause. "Did you give permission?" "No." "Did you sell it?" "No." "Did you lend it?" "No." Marla inhaled. "Then I am angry in a professional capacity." That almost made me smile. "I need the purchase contract, fitting notes, and any photos showing the initials inside the lining." I said, "You will have them in 10 minutes. Thank you." "No, darling, thank you for canceling that wedding. I never liked his mother." I blinked. "What?" She asked me twice whether I could make your waist look smaller in photos. "You are a size 4. Jenna mouthed. "I told you." Marla continued. "And that Serena woman came to the final fitting." My entire body went still. "What?" She said she was Lucas's cousin. I thought it was odd, but she knew details about the wedding. She kept asking about removable panels. I stood. "When was this?" 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Lucas had told me he had a client dinner. I gripped the edge of the counter. "Did she touch the dress?" She tried. I stopped her. "Do you have security cameras?" "Yes." "I will send the footage to your attorney." "Marla, you may have just changed everything." "No," she said. "They changed everything when they thought a wedding dress was community property." After we hung up, I forwarded Marla's contact to Priya. Jenna looked grim. "Serena planned this." "Yes, Lucas knew. He had to." She knew the final fitting time. The soft narrative cracked further. Serena had not wandered into my bridal suite overwhelmed by pregnancy hormones. She had seen the dress before. She had wanted it before. She had planned how to fit into it before. The baby was real. The tears were theater. At 8:30 p.m. Lucas finally came to Jenna's apartment. He did not buzz. He called from the lobby 6 times. Jenna leaned against the wall with her arms crossed. "Do you want me to call the police?" "Not yet," I answered on speaker. "What do you want, Lucas?" His voice sounded rough. "I am downstairs." "I know." Come down. No, Ava, do not do this through a phone. All communication goes through my lawyer, he exhaled sharply. This is not a lawsuit, this is our life. Our life ended when you asked me to undress for your mistress. Silence, then softer. I was panicking. No, you were choosing. She is pregnant. You keep saying that like it explains why you betrayed me. She was unstable, she said she might hurt herself. That was new. Jenna's eyes narrowed. Did she say that in writing? I asked. What? Did Serena threaten self-harm in writing? Why are you asking like a lawyer? Because you taught me love is not enough protection. He made a wounded sound. Ava, please, I made a terrible mistake, but cancelling the wedding in front of everyone, you humiliated my family. I looked at Jenna there. It was the injury he could name, his family, not me, not the dress, not the child, not the 4-month affair, his family's humiliation. Good night, Lucas. Wait, Mom wants to meet. No, she thinks we can make an arrangement. That word rang like a glass tapped by a knife. What arrangement? He hesitated. Something private, something that protects everyone. Everyone. You know what I mean. I really do. Ava, if you push this legally, Serena will be dragged through it. She is pregnant. The stress could hurt the baby. You should have thought about stress before bringing her into my bridal suite. His voice hardened. You are not this cruel. I closed my eyes. There was the hook. Cruel. He needed me to become the villain so he did not have to look at himself. I am not cruel, I said. I am done. I ended the call. 2 minutes later he texted, I never meant to hurt you then, but you are making this worse then. The house is complicated, do not talk to anyone about it. I stared at that third message, not Serena, not the baby, the house, always the house. The next morning Priya's office smelled like coffee and printer ink. I sat across from her at a conference table while she laid out documents in neat piles. Dress ownership, she said, tapping the first folder. Wedding vendor contracts, bank transfers, prenup drafts, property documents, communications. I looked at the mountain of paper. My relationship has become discovery. Priya's expression softened. Your relationship became discovery when they turned it into a transaction without telling you. She opened the dress folder. Marla's footage shows Serena entering the boutique 3 weeks ago. She signs in under the name Serena Hale. I stared. She what? Priya turned the paper toward me. There it was, Serena Hale, a fake name written in looping script, beside it a phone number I recognized from her messages. She was trying on my future before the wedding. I said, yes, and Lucas knew. Likely, we need more. Priya pulled another page. Now the dress, because she posted photos wearing it and because we have no evidence of permission, we can pursue civil claims, conversion, damage if altered, possibly intentional infliction depending on jurisdiction and facts, but the dress is not our biggest leverage. I looked up. The mansion. She nodded. Hale Mansion is scheduled for foreclosure auction in 32 days unless the debt is resolved. Can they save it? Not without significant cash. Their family business is underperforming. The bridge loan is expensive. They expected liquidity after the wedding. My liquidity? Yes. I sat back. Priya studied me. There is a legal way to approach this, but I need you to be clear about your motivation. I am not trying to hurt them just to hurt them. Good. I am trying to stop them from using me. Also good. And if that house goes to auction, I am interested in buying it. Priya's eyebrows lifted slightly. I kept my voice steady. Hale Mansion is a registered historic property with severe neglect issues. My preservation trust has bought worse. I know the structure, I know the restoration costs. I also know that if they had married me, my money would have gone into that house while Serena waited to move into it. Priya did not speak. I will not fund their fantasy from the outside, I said. But I may buy the asset legally if it comes to market. She slowly smiled. That, she said, is a very different thing. For the first time since the bridal suite, I felt something like heat return to my body, not anger, power, earned, documented, legal power. Priya said, then we prepare quietly. On my way out, a text came from Serena. You can sue me over a dress if you want. Lucas still chose me. I stopped in the hallway for a moment. I imagined replying with every sharp thing in my mouth. Instead, I opened my camera roll. I looked at the screenshot of her message from the day before. The house is next. Then I looked at the foreclosure notice Priya had printed. No, I thought, the house was not next. The house was already mine to consider. Eleanor invited me to dinner 3 days later, not called, not asked. invited as if I had missed a garden club meeting and needed to be brought back into polite order. The message came through Lucas because I had blocked her. Mom thinks emotions are high. Come to the house Friday. We can discuss a path forward. A path forward. I showed Priya. She said, "Do you want to go?" "No." "Do you need to go?" "Maybe." She understood immediately. Recording laws allow one-party consent here. Keep your phone visible if possible. Do not sign anything. Do not eat or drink if you feel unsafe. Bring Jenna. Eleanor will hate that. Excellent. So Friday evening, Jenna and I drove to Hale Mansion. The first time I saw that house, I thought it looked lonely. It sat behind iron gates at the end of a gravel drive, all grey stone, ivy, tall windows, an old pride. Lucas had told me it had been in his family for 4 generations. He said every Hale bride had descended the central staircase after her wedding. I had once imagined myself doing the same. Now the house looked different. The gutters sagged, the west wing windows were dark, a crack ran near the old conservatory wall where my firm had recommended urgent repairs 18 months ago, repairs I had partially paid for. Jenna parked beside the fountain. "Rich people houses always look haunted when the money runs out," she said. "That is because Pride has poor insulation." She glanced at me. "You okay?" "No." "Good answer." The door opened before we knocked. Eleanor stood there in navy silk, pearls at her throat, expression controlled. Her eyes flicked to Jenna. "This is a family conversation." "Then Serena should not be here," I said. Eleanor's mouth tightened. I walked past her. The dining room had been staged like a tribunal. Lucas sat at one end of the long table. Serena sat beside him in a soft pink dress, her hand on her stomach. Lucas's uncle Richard was there along with 2 cousins and Eleanor's younger sister. They all looked at me as if I had brought scandal into their home instead of simply refusing to be buried under it. Jenna stayed by the doorway, phone in hand. Lucas stood when he saw me. "Ava." I did not answer. I looked at Serena. She had the nerve to lower her eyes. Eleanor took her place at the head of the table. "Sit," she said. "I will stand." "This attitude helps no one." "It helps me." Richard Hale snorted. "This is childish." I turned to him. "Did Lucas tell you he brought his pregnant mistress into my bridal suite and asked for my dress?" His face reddened. Eleanor snapped. "We are not here to relitigate emotional details." "Of course not," I said. "You are here to discuss money." Lucas flinched. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "We are here to preserve dignity." "Whose?" No one answered. Serena spoke softly. "I know you hate me." I looked at her. "I do not think about you enough to hate you." Her face changed for half a second. There she was, not fragile, furious. Lucas stepped in. "Ava, please." I looked at him. "Say what you invited me here to say." He swallowed. "We want to avoid lawyers." "No, a public fight helps no one." "It helped me tell the truth." Eleanor folded her hands. "You made a spectacle at the church. We are prepared to overlook that if you agree to a mutual statement." Jenna gave a tiny laugh from the doorway. Eleanor ignored her and slid a folder across the table. "There will be no admission of wrongdoing by either side. We will state that the wedding was postponed due to private family circumstances. You will stop communicating with vendors, guests, and gossip accounts. In exchange, we will not pursue damages for reputational harm." I stared at the folder, then I laughed, not loudly, just enough to make Serena's hand tighten around her napkin. "You want me to lie?" "We want you to be mature," Eleanor said. "You want me to protect Lucas, protect Serena, protect your family name and pay quietly for the privilege," Lucas said. "No one is asking you to pay." I opened the folder. There it was, a settlement draft, mutual confidentiality, non-disparagement, release of claims, and near the bottom, under outstanding shared obligations, a paragraph referencing wedding expenses, household planning costs, and property stabilization discussions. Property stabilization. I looked up slowly. "You invited me here to get me to sign away my claims and keep me attached to the mansion debt." Lucas stood. "That is not what this is." "Then you did not read it." His face told me he had. Eleanor leaned forward. "Ava, you were going to be part of this family. You made commitments." "I made commitments to a man who was faithful. That man was fictional," Serena whispered. "That is cruel." I turned to her. "You wore my wedding dress online." Her eyes filled. I was emotional. "You signed into my final fitting as Serena Hale." The room went silent. Lucas looked at her. Good, he had not known that part. Serena's mouth opened. I was scared. "No," I said, "you were rehearsing." Lucas stared at her. "Serena, She touched her stomach. I wanted to understand what I was losing. I almost admired the speed of her performance. Eleanor cut in. Enough, Ava, this vindictiveness is beneath you. No, Eleanor, what was beneath me was believing you wanted me as a daughter. For the first time, something like annoyance cracked into honesty on her face. I wanted you to be sensible, sensible enough to pay, sensible enough to understand duty. Whose duty? Mine, to save your house while your son builds a family with another woman. Lucas said. I never planned it that way. I looked at him. You knew she was pregnant for 4 months. He said nothing. You let me attend cake tastings. Silence. You let me pay deposits. Silence. You let your mother discuss moving my office into the East Wing after the wedding. Eleanor's jaw flexed. You let Serena visit my dress fitting. Lucas whispered. I did not know about that. But you knew enough. His eyes shone. I was trying to find the right time. The right time was before you asked me to marry you again every morning by letting me plan a wedding. Richard muttered. This is going nowhere. No, I said, it is going exactly where it needs to. I picked up the settlement draft and held it out to Jenna. Photograph every page. Eleanor shot up. That document is confidential. It was handed to me without signature or legal restriction, but please have your attorney call mine. Jenna took the photos. Lucas came around the table. Ava, stop please. I know I hurt you, I know, but this house has nothing to do with Serena. I looked around the dining room, the old portraits, the cracked ceiling medallion, the silver that had probably been polished for my benefit. This house has everything to do with Serena. I said, you wanted my money to save it, you wanted her child to inherit it, you wanted me to smile in a cheaper dress while you kept both. He recoiled as if I had slapped him. Eleanor's voice turned icy. Be careful. You are making enemies. I picked up my purse. No, I am recognizing them. As Jenna and I walked out, Serena followed us into the hall. Ava, she said. I stopped. She stood beneath the staircase, one hand on the railing. For the first time she dropped the whisper. You can make this ugly, but Lucas will never forgive you if his family loses this house. There it was, not love, not guilt, the house. I stepped closer. Serena, you are confused. I am not trying to be forgiven. Her eyes flashed. I looked up at the staircase. Every Hale bride had supposedly descended. Then I looked back at her. Enjoy the house while his name is still on the deed. Her face went blank. I walked out before she could answer. The first bill I stopped paying was for the East Wing roof inspection. It was scheduled under my firm's vendor network, billed to my company, and described as preliminary marital residence assessment. Lucas had asked me to arrange it because he said my contractors were more reliable. That was why he wanted them. I cancelled the appointment at 8:00 a.m. Monday. At 8:07 Lucas called. I let it go to voicemail. At 8:11 Eleanor called from an unknown number, blocked. At 8:19 the roofing contractor emailed me. Mrs. Hale called and said there may have been a misunderstanding. Please confirm cancellation. I replied, there is no misunderstanding. I am no longer associated with Hale Mansion or the Hale family. All future work must be contracted and paid directly by the property owner. Then I forwarded the email to Priya. By noon I had cancelled 3 more pending arrangements: a landscape deposit for Eleanor's summer benefit, a private security renewal for the mansion gates, a consultation with a tax attorney Lucas had asked me to sit in on after the honeymoon. Each cancellation felt like pulling a hook out of my skin. Painful, necessary, bloody in small ways. Lucas came to my office at 3:30. My assistant Nina appeared in my doorway with wide eyes. Lucas Hale is here. The office went quiet behind her. Everyone knew, of course they knew. Scandal traveled through professional circles faster than invoices. Tell him I am unavailable. He says he will wait. Then he can enjoy the lobby. 10 minutes later my phone buzzed. I am not leaving until you talk to me. I typed back. Then bring snacks. Jenna would have been proud. At 4:05 Nina returned. He is upsetting clients. That was deliberate. Lucas knew I cared about professionalism. He knew I hated scenes. The old Ava would have come out just to keep the peace. I stood, buttoned my blazer, and walked to the lobby with my phone recording in my pocket. Lucas stood near the reception desk, looking like a man who had not slept. His tie was loose. His hair was messy. For one dangerous second, memory tried to soften him. Then I remembered Serena in my dress. What do you need? I asked. His eyes moved over my face. You look tired. Not enough to be stupid. He winced. Can we talk somewhere private? No, Ava. Say it here or leave. He glanced at Nina, then at the two clients pretending not to listen. His voice dropped. The bank called. I assumed they would. You cancelled the roof assessment. Yes, my mother is panicking. That sounds uncomfortable for her. His mouth tightened. This is my family home. It is your family debt. He stepped closer. You know what that house means to me. I know what it meant to me too. I spent years helping you preserve it. I never asked you to do all that. That sentence landed like a match in gasoline. I stared at him. No, I said slowly. You asked in pieces, a roof here, a tax bill there, a charity luncheon, a vendor deposit, a bridge until your account cleared. You asked softly enough that I could pretend it was love. His face colored. I intended to pay you back. Intention is not a transfer. The receptionist looked down quickly. Lucas lowered his voice. I am trying to protect everyone. You are trying to protect yourself. Serena is pregnant, he said again like a prayer that had stopped working. I folded my arms. Does the baby need a roof assessment too? His eyes flashed. Do not talk about my child like that. Then do not use your child as a receipt for my silence. He looked wounded. I had once lived for that look. I had apologized too quickly. Whenever he wore it, but now I saw the shape of it, a tool, maybe not always conscious, still a tool. He said, I loved you. Past tense. There it was, quiet, uninvited, final. For a moment neither of us moved. Then I nodded. I believe you loved what I gave you. That is not fair. Neither was the dress. His throat moved. I panicked. He said, Serena called me that morning. She said she could not breathe. She said she felt like our baby was being erased. And your solution was to erase me. I thought you would understand. That was the cruelest truth of all. He had thought I would understand. He had built his betrayal on the foundation of my past generosity. I said, you mistook my compassion for consent. He closed his eyes. I need more time, he whispered. For what? To fix the house, to fix this, to figure out what happens with Serena. I smiled then, small and cold. You are still trying to keep all three. His eyes opened. The house, I said. Serena, me. No, yes, but I am removing myself from the inventory. A client coughed softly behind him. Lucas looked around as if suddenly remembering where we were. I stepped back. All further communication goes through Priya. If you come to my office again without an appointment, I will consider it harassment. His face hardened. You would do that to me? No, Lucas. I would do that for me. That line stayed with me all evening. For me, not against him. For me. At 6:00, Priya called. You made an impression at the bank, she said. What happened? The Hales requested an emergency extension. They claimed expected funds from a family marital consolidation were delayed. I laughed without humor. That sounds elegant. It sounds desperate. The lender is losing patience. What does that mean? It means the debt may be packaged for sale before auction. Investors sometimes buy distressed notes. I sat straighter. Could my trust buy it? Possibly, not all of it, maybe, enough to gain position perhaps, but I want you to think carefully. Buying distressed debt tied to your ex-fiancé's family home will be emotionally complicated. So was almost marrying him fair? What would it take? Capital, speed and clean separation. We would need to show this is an arm's-length transaction through the Bennett Preservation Trust. No harassment, no threats, no personal coercion. You buy only if the numbers make sense. They do. You have not seen them. I know the house, I know the land, I know the restoration estimates because I created them. I know the neighborhood, I know its preservation status, and I know the Hales cannot maintain it. Priya was quiet, then she said, I will contact Mr. Whitaker. That name meant something. The bank consultant. Yes, he handles troubled historic properties. You met him at the Preservation Council last year. I remembered him, grey hair, careful eyes, no patience for sentimental owners who let buildings rot while bragging about ancestors. Set the meeting. I said that night I went back to my apartment for the first time since the wedding. Lucas's things were everywhere in small, painful ways. A sweater on the chair, a book on the nightstand, his preferred coffee in my cabinet, a toothbrush beside mine. I took out 3 boxes. Not with rage, with method. Sweater, book, coffee, toothbrush, cufflinks, running shoes. The framed photo from our engagement night. I paused at that one. In the photo, Lucas and I stood in front of Hale Mansion, my hand lifted to show the ring, his face bright with something that looked like joy behind us. The house glowed. I saw it now. The house had always been in the picture. I placed the frame face down in the box. Then I changed the locks. Marla's boutique smelled like steam, silk, and quiet fury. She met me at the door wearing black as if attending a funeral for manners. I saved everything, she said. I knew you would. She led me to the fitting room where I had stood 3 weeks earlier while she adjusted the bodice of my dress and told me my grandmother would have loved the pearl buttons now. The room looked smaller, or maybe I had outgrown the version of myself who had been happy inside it. Marla opened a folder on the table: contract, payment records, design sketches, fitting notes, photographs, security footage, stills, and this. She slid a printed sign-in sheet toward me: Serena Hale. Seeing the name again made my skin tighten. She knew exactly what she was doing. Marla said, "Yes, I feel responsible. You stopped her from touching the dress. I should have called you. You had no reason to know." Marla's mouth pressed flat. "I have worked with brides for 30 years. I know longing, I know envy." That woman was not longing, she was measuring. That word stayed with me: measuring my waist, my dress, my place, my future rooms. Priya arrived 10 minutes later with her paralegal and a portable scanner. She greeted Marla, reviewed the documents, and asked precise questions. Did Serena identify herself as family? Did Lucas schedule the appointment? Did Serena ask about alterations? Did she mention pregnancy? Marla answered everything. She asked whether the back could be temporarily opened. Marla said, "I told her any changes would require Ava's approval." Priya looked at me. "That explains the pins in the photo." I nodded. My dress had been forced around Serena's body the way they had tried to force my life around her presence. Badly, publicly, without permission. After the boutique, we drove to the church. Jenna had arranged access to the hallway footage. The church administrator looked deeply uncomfortable but cooperative. "I am sorry," she told me. "We had no idea." "I know." She led us to a small security office where a monitor showed grainy video from the wedding day. There I was, a white figure moving through the hall that morning, laughing with Jenna, then Lucas arriving, then Serena. He had his hand at her lower back. That detail hurt more than it should have, not because he touched her, because the gesture was familiar, protective, intimate, practiced. Serena paused outside the bridal suite and looked both ways before entering, not overwhelmed, careful. Priya asked for a copy. The administrator agreed. Then we watched the footage from after the cancelled ceremony. Eleanor entering the bridal suite, her assistant following with 2 garment bags, the assistant leaving with my dress, Eleanor leaving with my ring box in her hand. My ring had not been collected for safekeeping. It had been taken. Priya's pen stopped moving. "Well," she said, "that helps." I stared at the screen. The old me would have felt violated. The new me felt organized. Evidence had a strange mercy. It turned gaslighting into sequence, time, action, proof. By the time I returned to Priya's office, we had enough to send formal notices: 1 to Lucas, 1 to Eleanor, 1 to Serena. Preserve all communications, garments, photographs, videos, financial records, and property-related documents. Cease use of Ms. Bennett's image, property, and personal effects. Return the engagement ring and wedding dress immediately for inspection. All further contact through counsel. Priya read the letters aloud. "Too polite," I said. She smiled. "That is how lawyers threaten people with good stationery." The letters went out at 4:00 p.m. Lucas called at 4:12. Blocked. His attorney called Priya at 4:18. Priya put him on speaker after warning him I was present. Lucas's attorney, Daniel Price, sounded expensive and irritated. "My client is devastated," he said. Priya looked bored. "My client was asked to surrender her wedding dress to his pregnant mistress. We are not here to trade insults. That was a fact. The dress issue is being exaggerated." I leaned toward the phone. Serena posted photos wearing it. Daniel paused. "Ms. Bennett is present." "She is," Priya said. "And before you object, you called my office." Daniel cleared his throat. "The dress will be returned, in its current condition," Priya said. "No cleaning, no alterations, no repairs before inspection." Another pause. "That may be difficult." I closed my eyes. Priya's voice sharpened. "Why? I believe Ms. Brooks had minor alterations done." Marla, standing beside the conference table because she had insisted on coming, muttered, "I will end someone." Priya held up one finger. "Unauthorized alterations to a custom garment owned by my client will be included in the claim," she said. Daniel sighed. "This is becoming unnecessarily hostile." No, I said. It became hostile in the bridal suite. This is paperwork. I could almost hear him recalculating. Then he said, Lucas would like to speak to Ava privately. No, Priya and I said. Together. Daniel tried again. There are emotional complexities here, Priya replied. Then he should discuss them with a therapist. I loved her a little after the call. Priya handed me another folder. These are preliminary documents from Mr. Whitaker, the Hale Mansion file. My pulse shifted. Inside were photographs, debt summaries, lien details, repair estimates, and a timeline. The numbers were worse than I expected. The Hales had not been slipping, they had been falling for years. Lucas had known Eleanor. Had known. They had hosted engagement parties beneath a roof they could not afford to repair. They had toasted my future in rooms heated by unpaid bills, and they had expected my signature to save them. Priya tapped one page. Here, the bridge lender is open to selling a portion of the note if the buyer is qualified. How soon? Very soon. How soon is very soon? Before auction. I looked at the property photos, the library where Lucas proposed, the garden where I cried after my mother's death, and he held me. The staircase. Eleanor said Hale brides descended. Rooms that had witnessed my devotion and their deception. Priya watched me carefully. You do not have to do this. I know, if you buy into the debt, they will say you are vindictive. They already say that. If you acquire the property, the public story will get louder. Truth can be loud. She nodded slowly. Then we proceed. That evening my dress was delivered to Priya's office in a black garment bag. Marla unzipped it. No one spoke. The back seams had been opened, the inner lining had been stretched, 2 pearl buttons were missing. Near the left hip, there was a faint makeup stain. Marla touched the embroidery inside. My grandmother's initials were still there, a B. Ava Bennett, not Ava Hale, never Ava Hale. I reached out and ran one finger over the letters. Then I said, add it to the evidence. Eleanor's charity luncheon invitation arrived on thick cream paper, hand-delivered, because of course it was. Jenna found the envelope outside my office door and held it with 2 fingers like it might bite. Tell me you are not going. I opened it. The luncheon was at Hale Mansion, benefiting historic women's education, according to the card, hosted by Eleanor Hale, sponsored in previous years by a quiet donor she never named because the donor was me. This year my name was absent. Not surprising, my money was also absent. That would be the problem. A handwritten note sat inside. Ava, your presence would show grace. No signature. Eleanor believed grace meant walking into a room built on your silence and smiling for the people who benefited from it. I showed Priya. She read it twice. This is bait. Yes. Do you want to take it? Yes. Jenna groaned. Priya studied me. Why? Because the women in that room have heard Eleanor's version. I want them to hear mine. No emotional speeches. I know. No accusations you cannot support. I know. No threats. I am done threatening. I prefer receipts. Priya smiled faintly. Then bring receipts. The luncheon took place under a bright spring sky that made Hale Mansion look almost healthy from a distance. White tents covered the lawn. Women in pastel dresses gathered around tables with linen napkins and crystal glasses. A harpist played near the fountain, the same fountain with a cracked basin I had paid to repair the previous summer. Lucas saw me first. He stood near the conservatory doors in a grey suit. He looked thinner for a second. His face opened with something like relief. Then he saw Priya beside me. The relief died. Eleanor approached with a smile sharp enough to cut ribbon. Ava, she said, how generous of you to come. I was invited. Her eyes moved to Priya. And you brought counsel. I learned from experience. A few nearby women turned their heads. Eleanor's smile tightened. Let us not make a scene. I did not bring your son's mistress to my wedding. My scenes are modest by comparison. A woman behind her coughed into her champagne. Eleanor led us toward the main hall, where silent auction items lined long tables. I recognized several vendors I had introduced to her, the calligrapher, the florist, the antique print dealer. My labor was everywhere. My name was nowhere. Then Serena entered. She wore pale blue and a diamond pendant I recognized immediately, not mine. A copy of the necklace Lucas had given me for our engagement dinner. The original sat in a safe deposit box because Priya told me to secure all gifts until ownership questions were settled. Serena's version was slightly larger, slightly brighter, and completely tasteless. She saw me looking and touched it. Lucas wanted me to feel welcome, she said. I smiled. He always did confuse replacement with repair. Her face hardened. Lucas stepped between us. Ava, please, you keep saying that. Because I keep hoping you will remember who we were. I remember exactly who we were, that is why I brought documents. His face changed. Eleanor appeared at the podium before he could answer. Ladies, she said into the microphone, thank you for joining us at Hale Mansion. A home that has stood for generations as a symbol of duty, culture, and family continuity. I almost admired her nerve. She spoke for 10 minutes about stewardship, legacy, women supporting women. I listened while standing beside a table displaying donated jewelry. Then Eleanor made her mistake. As many of you know, she said, lowering her voice, our family has endured a painful private matter. We believe in compassion, we believe in forgiveness, we believe that one moment of emotion should not erase years of love. Several women turned toward me. Lucas looked down. Serena placed both hands on her stomach. Priya whispered, careful. I nodded. Eleanor continued, it is easy to make accusations when hurt, it is harder to protect dignity. That was enough. I stepped forward. Eleanor, I said clearly, since you brought up dignity, may I respond? The room froze. Her smile did not move. This is not the time. You made it the time. A murmur spread. Priya handed me a folder. I did not go to the podium. I did not need it. My voice carried. I will not discuss every private detail, but I will correct one public implication. I did not cancel the wedding because of one emotional moment. I cancelled it because Lucas Hale brought Serena Brooks, pregnant with his child, into my bridal suite and asked me to give her my wedding dress. Gasps moved through the hall. Serena whispered, stop. I looked at her. You posted yourself wearing it. Someone said, oh my God. I opened the folder. This is the purchase contract for the dress. This is the invoice paid by me. This is the letter from the designer confirming an authorized alteration. This is the preservation notice sent after the dress was returned damaged. Eleanor's face went white with rage. I turned a page. These are bank records showing payments I made over 3 years toward Hale Mansion repairs, Hale family events, property tax penalties, and emergency vendor bills. Some were loans, most were represented to me as temporary family support for the home I was told would become my marital residence. The room had gone completely silent. Lucas whispered, Ava. I did not look at him. This is a draft financial document Lucas asked me to sign before the wedding. I was told it was a household budget. My attorney has identified language connecting my future assets to debt stabilization for this property. A woman near the auction table said, Eleanor. Eleanor lifted her chin. This is a malicious distortion. Priya spoke then, calm and lethal. All documents referenced are available to opposing counsel. We welcome formal correction if any statement is inaccurate. No one corrected anything. Serena's eyes filled, but the room had learned to read her tears differently. Lucas came toward me. You are destroying us. I finally looked at him. No, I am returning what belongs to me. The truth was always yours to avoid. His mouth trembled. Eleanor stepped down from the podium. You ungrateful little climber. There it was, the mask gone. The room heard. I let the words hang there. Then I said, I climbed by working. Your family climbed onto my back and called it tradition. A sound moved through the crowd. Not laughter, not shock, recognition. That was the moment the room turned. Not fully. Society never turned fully in public. But enough women looked away from Eleanor. Enough looked at me with something warmer than pity. One older woman, a board member I had met twice, stood. Ava, she said, did you fund last year's scholarship luncheon? I looked at Eleanor then. Back at the woman. Yes. The woman's face hardened. Eleanor told us the family foundation did. Eleanor snapped. This is not relevant. It is to me, the woman said, picking up her purse. Others followed. Not all. Enough. The luncheon did not collapse dramatically. It thinned. Conversations died. Checks remained unsigned. The harpist stopped playing because no one had told her whether to continue. Lucas followed me to the front steps. Ava, wait. I stopped because Priya was beside me and I was not afraid. He looked ruined, not repentant enough, just ruined enough to be honest. You do not understand what losing this house will do to my mother. I understand what keeping it did to me. I can repay you. No, you cannot. I can try. You had years. He looked at the stone facade behind us. This house is all I have left. That sentence should have moved me. Instead it clarified him. No, Lucas, it is all you chose. I walked down the steps at the car. I turned back once. Eleanor stood in the doorway. Rigid with fury, Serena stood behind her, one hand on her stomach. Lucas stood between them and me, exactly where he had stood since the beginning, not choosing, just blocking the view. I looked at the mansion, then at Eleanor. "Enjoy it," I said, "while your name is still on the deed." This time, half the remaining guests heard me. Good. The Bennett Preservation Trust had been my grandmother's idea before it was mine. She used to say old buildings were like old women. People praised their character while ignoring their cracks, then acted surprised when neglect became collapse. When she died, she left me enough money to start the trust, not enough to be reckless. I built it slowly, one abandoned schoolhouse, one fire-damaged library, one row of worker cottages near the river. I understood distressed properties. I understood sentimental owners who let roofs fail because pride cost less than repair until the rain came through. Hale Mansion was not the largest project the trust had considered, it was simply the most personal. Mr. Whitaker met Priya and me in a glass conference room overlooking downtown. He wore a grey suit and had the calm expression of a man who had watched too many families confuse inheritance with competence. "I will be direct," he said. "The Hale property is in serious trouble." "I know." He nodded. "You know the building. I prepared 2 restoration assessments in the past 3 years. I saw them. Good work. Thank you. The owners implemented only part of the urgent recommendations, because they did not want to pay, because they could not pay," he corrected. "There is a difference legally if not structurally." Priya smiled slightly. Mr. Whitaker opened the debt file. "The senior lender is proceeding toward foreclosure. The private bridge lender is willing to assign its position at a discount. There are tax liens, vendor liens, and significant deferred maintenance." "What is the risk?" I asked. "That you buy into a fight. The Hales may contest, they may seek emergency refinancing, they may use public pressure, they may accuse you of personal retaliation. They already have." He looked at me over his glasses. "Are they right?" I held his gaze. "I am personally angry. I am also professionally qualified, financially prepared, and legally advised. The trust's interest in the property predates the wedding. My restoration assessments prove that. My funds will not go to the Hales directly. If the numbers do not work, I walk." Mr. Whitaker sat back. "That is the right answer." The process moved quickly after that, not easily, quickly. Priya built a wall between my emotions and the transaction. Independent valuation, trust board approval, conflict documentation, written acknowledgement that I had a prior personal relationship with the owners but would not communicate directly. I signed more documents in 2 weeks than I had signed during the entire wedding planning process. Each signature felt like taking back a language Lucas had tried to use against me. Agreement, obligation, contribution, commitment, those words no longer belonged only to him. Serena broke first. She sent a voice message at 11:42 p.m. "You think buying debt makes you powerful, it makes you pathetic. Lucas loved me before you. He came back to me because I gave him something real. You were just convenient. I saved it." Then another. "You do not even want that house, you just cannot stand that I might live there." Saved. Then, "My baby is a Hale, you cannot erase that." Saved. I did not reply. The next day Lucas came to my apartment building. The doorman called upstairs. "Mr. Hale is here. He says it is urgent. Tell him to leave. He says he will wait outside." "Then he can wait outside." An hour later, rain started. I made tea at 9:00 p.m. I looked out the window. He was still there, soaked, miserable, very cinematic. Old Ava might have gone downstairs with towels and forgiveness. New Ava took a photo for the record and texted Priya at 9:15. My phone rang from an unknown number. I answered because I knew. "Ava," Lucas said. Rain blurred his voice. "Please, you are trespassing adjacent." A bitter laugh. "That sounds like you." "No, it sounds like my lawyer. I need to see you." "No, I know about the debt purchase." "Then you know not to contact me directly about it." His breathing changed. "Why are you doing this?" "Because it is a valid investment. Do not talk to me like I am a stranger." "You made me one." He was silent. Then, "My father died in that house." "I know. My mother will not survive losing it." "Your mother survived asking me to save it while you had another woman pregnant. That is not fair." "Fair died in the bridal suite." Thunder rolled somewhere beyond the city. Lucas's voice lowered. "I am sorry." I closed my eyes. There it was, the apology, too late but still sharp enough to cut. "For what?" I asked. "For hurting you." Specifics. What? Be specific. He exhaled. For Serena. Try again. For bringing her to the wedding. Again. For asking you to give her the dress. My throat tightened despite myself. Again. For letting my family pressure you. Again. For taking your money. Silence after that. Then he whispered, I did not think of it that way. I know. That was the problem. He had not thought he had received. He had assumed. He had let my love become the quiet infrastructure of his life. Then called me cruel when I stopped maintaining it. He said, if I could go back. You cannot. I would tell you before the wedding. Lucas. What? That would still not make me marry you. The rain filled the silence. Finally he said, is there any part of you that still loves me? I looked around my apartment at the boxes of his things by the door, at my clean counter, at the empty space where our engagement photo had been. Yes, I said. His breath caught. But she is not in charge anymore. I ended the call. The foreclosure auction date was posted the next morning. 30 days, public notice, Hale Mansion, including main residence, outbuildings, and surrounding acreage. Eleanor issued a statement through a family friend that afternoon. The Hale family is addressing a temporary financial matter and asks for privacy during a difficult time. Temporary. That word again. Temporary affairs, temporary debts, temporary humiliation, temporary use of Ava Bennett. I printed the auction notice and placed it in my project binder. On the cover I wrote, Hale Mansion Acquisition. Then after a moment I crossed out Hale Bennett House Project. It was petty. It was also accurate. The foreclosure auction took place in a county building with fluorescent lights and bad coffee, no chandeliers, no white roses, no string quartet, just folding chairs, legal notices, bidders with clipboards, and the stale smell of money losing its manners. I wore a navy suit, not black. This was not a funeral. Priya sat on my left. Mr. Whitaker sat 2 rows ahead. Jenna came because she said she had earned the right to watch the third act. The Hales arrived 10 minutes before the auction began. Eleanor entered first, wearing camel cashmere and denial. Lucas followed, unshaven but dressed carefully. Serena came last in a loose ivory coat, one hand on her stomach, her face arranged for sympathy. When she saw me, her expression cracked. Good. Lucas stopped in the aisle. Ava. Priya looked up. Mr. Hale, direct communication is not advised. He ignored her. Please do not do this. I looked at the auction booklet. I am here as a qualified bidder. This is my home. It is collateral. His face tightened. How can you say that? Because I read the documents. Eleanor came forward. You vindictive girl. Jenna leaned toward Priya. I know this is serious, but she really needs new material. Priya's mouth twitched. Eleanor pointed at me. No matter what paper you buy, you will never belong in that house. I looked at her. I belonged when I paid for the roof. Her face hardened. When I funded your luncheon. No answer. When your son needed me to sign his future into my balance sheet. Lucas whispered, Ava, stop. No, I said, you stop asking me to protect the story after surviving the truth. The auction officer called the room to order. Eleanor sat rigidly. Lucas stayed standing for another second, then took the seat beside her. The bidding began with legal descriptions, parcel numbers, lien references, opening amount. Hale Mansion sounded so much smaller when reduced to numbers. The house that had once intimidated me became acreage, square footage, debt, repair risk, title condition. That helped. Several bidders dropped out quickly. Historic properties frightened investors who preferred clean demolitions. Preservation restrictions limited easy profit. Deferred maintenance was severe. I knew all of that. I had built my bid around it. Another bidder, a developer with a silver watch, stayed in longer than expected. My chest tightened as numbers rose. Priya leaned toward me, still within range. I nodded. Eleanor kept glancing back. At first she seemed confused. She did not know who I represented. My trust had used counsel for filings. My name was not the first thing visible. Then the officer said, bid entered by Bennett Preservation Trust. The room changed. It was subtle but complete. Lucas turned. Serena's mouth opened. Eleanor went utterly still. The developer bid again. Priya looked at me. I lifted my paddle. My voice was calm. The officer repeated the number. Jenna's hand found my wrist under the table and squeezed once. The developer hesitated. His advisor whispered to him. He shook his head. No further bid. The room waited. The officer looked around. Going once. Lucas stood. Wait. The officer frowned. Sir, are you a registered bidder? Lucas's face burned. I need to speak to. Sit down, Eleanor hissed. He did not. Ava, he said, voice breaking. Please. Everyone looked at me. There it was, the public begging they had expected from me at the church. How neatly the world turned when a woman stopped kneeling. I met his eyes. I said nothing. The officer continued, going twice. Serena started crying, not delicate tears now, panicked ones. Lucas, do something, she whispered. He looked at his mother. Eleanor looked straight ahead, jaw clenched. Because there was nothing left to do, the gavel came down. Sold to Bennett Preservation Trust. Silence. Then paper moved, chairs scraped, the world resumed. But the Hales did not move. Lucas stood in the aisle as if the floor had disappeared. Eleanor's face looked carved from salt. Serena stared at me with pure hatred. I gathered my documents. Priya whispered, congratulations. Jenna whispered, I want that on a mug. I stood. Lucas reached me before I reached the door. You bought my family's house. I bought a distressed historic property at lawful public auction. Do not do that. What? Hide behind legal language. I looked at him. You hid behind family language for years. He flinched. Eleanor arrived beside him. You will regret this, she said. No, I replied. I regret many things. This is not one of them. Serena came forward, her face wet. You cannot throw a pregnant woman out. I am not throwing anyone out today, I said. Legal occupancy notices will be handled properly. You are heartless. No, I am documented. She looked like she wanted to slap me. Lucas stepped between us again, always between, but this time he was not protecting me from her, he was protecting her from what she had helped create. I walked past them outside. The sky was painfully blue. Jenna let out a breath. You did it. I looked at the county building doors. No, I said. The gavel did it, the debt did it, their choices did it. But you showed up. Yes, that mattered. I showed up not as a bride, not as a donor. Not as the woman in the cheaper dress, as the buyer. My phone buzzed before I reached the car, a voice message from Serena. I played it on speaker. Her voice was shaking with rage. You think this is over? I will make sure everyone knows what you did. You are stealing a home from a pregnant woman and her child. I will stand on those steps and tell the world. Jenna looked at me. Priya sighed. I saved the message. Then I said, let her stand there. Serena went live on a Tuesday morning. She chose the front steps of Hale Mansion, which showed good instinct and poor legal advice. By then the closing process was underway. Occupancy notices had been served according to law. The Hales were not being dragged into the street. They had time to vacate, they had counsel, they had options, but truth rarely performed as well as tears. Serena stood in front of the stone columns wearing a soft beige sweater, her pregnancy visible, her face pale and tragic. My baby's home is being taken, she told the camera, by a woman who could not handle being left. Within an hour, the clip had thousands of views. By noon, my name was trending in a small, ugly corner of the internet. Homewrecker steals mansion from pregnant woman. Bitter ex buys fiancé's family home. Old money revenge scandal. Jenna sent me screenshots with the message. Do not read comments. Naturally, I read 3, then I stopped because healing included not volunteering for stranger stupidity. Priya called an emergency meeting. We respond once, she said, clearly. Factually, no mud fight. I sat at her conference table, looking at a paused image of Serena crying on the mansion steps. She is using the baby. Yes, Lucas will let her. Maybe, Eleanor definitely will. Certainly. Priya slid a draft statement toward me. It was clean. Bennett Preservation Trust lawfully acquired Hale Mansion through a public foreclosure auction following documented loan defaults by the prior owners. Ms. Bennett has no direct eviction action against Ms. Brooks. Any occupancy matters will proceed according to law. Claims regarding the cancelled wedding, unauthorized use and alteration of Ms. Bennett's property, and related financial disputes are being handled through counsel. Attached were selected documents, auction notice, property records, debt filings, the dress claim. No emotional details beyond what was already public. I read it twice. Add one line. I said. Priya waited. Ms. Bennett will not apologize for declining to marry a man who asked her to give her wedding dress to another woman carrying his child. Priya's eyes lifted. That is sharp. It is also the thesis. She added it. The statement went out at 2:00 by 2:30. The narrative began to split. Some people still hated me. That was fine. Public opinion was not a courtroom. And I had stopped trying to be acquitted by everyone, but others began asking different questions. Why was the house in foreclosure before the wedding? Why did Serena wear Ava's dress? Why did Lucas still go through with wedding planning after getting Serena pregnant? Why were Ava's bank records tied to hail repairs? Questions were dangerous to liars because questions invited sequence, and sequence was my ally. The next day was mediation. Lucas arrived with Daniel Price. Eleanor came with her own attorney. Serena came despite not being required, which told me she wanted a performance space. I wore grey, Priya wore red lipstick. It was over before it began. Daniel tried to argue that emotions had escalated on both sides. Priya placed the dress photos on the table. Daniel tried to argue that Lucas had been under extreme pressure. Priya placed the pregnancy timeline beside the wedding vendor payment schedule. Eleanor's attorney tried to separate family debts from my transfers. Priya placed the bank records in chronological order. Serena whispered, "This is humiliating." I looked at her. Yes, she stared. I did not soften it. Some humiliation was earned. Lucas finally spoke after an hour. "I did not mean for it to go this far." The mediator, a tired woman named Helen, looked at him over her glasses. "Mr. Hale, what outcome are you seeking today?" He looked at me, not at Priya, not at Helen, at me. "I want to talk to Ava." Priya said, "No private conversation." Lucas's voice broke. "Then here, fine, here." The room went still. He turned toward me. I was a coward. No one interrupted. "I found out Serena was pregnant and I panicked. I should have told you. I should have cancelled the wedding, but my mother said we needed stability. The bank was calling. The house was." He stopped. I finished for him. "More important." His eyes filled. "No, I mean yes, at the time I thought if we got married I could fix everything after. I thought you would be angry but you would stay because you always stayed." There it was, the confession without decoration. "You counted on my loyalty to survive your betrayal," I said. He covered his face. Eleanor snapped. "Lucas." He dropped his hands. "No, Mom, she is right." Eleanor looked as if he had struck her. Lucas turned back to me. "When Serena came to the church, I thought if I could just get through the day, I could manage it. I thought the dress was a small thing compared to everything else falling apart. A small thing." I breathed through the old pain. "It was not small to me. I know that now." "No," I said. "You know the consequences now. I am not sure you know me." He had no answer. Serena was crying silently. Eleanor sat rigid and furious, but her power had changed shape. She could no longer command the room by acting wounded. The documents had made her ordinary. Helen cleared her throat. "For the record, Mr. Hale, did you know Ms. Brooks was pregnant before the wedding day?" Lucas closed his eyes. "Yes." "Did you inform Ms. Bennett?" "No." "Did you ask Ms. Bennett to allow Ms. Brooks to wear her wedding dress?" His voice was barely audible. "Yes." "Did Ms. Bennett agree?" "No," Serena whispered. "Lucas." He did not look at her. Helen continued. "Did you or your family anticipate financial contribution from Ms. Bennett after marriage toward Hale Mansion?" Eleanor's attorney objected. Helen said, "This is mediation, not trial. He may answer voluntarily." Lucas looked at his mother, then at me. "Yes." The word landed with the weight of a locked door opening. Not because I did not know, because he finally said it where others could hear. Eleanor stood. "This is over." Priya smiled. "Not quite. By the end of mediation, we had a framework: return of personal property, compensation for the damaged dress, repayment schedule for documented loans, mutual non-contact except through counsel, withdrawal of reputational claims, separate handling of mansion occupancy through property counsel. Serena refused to sign anything related to the dress until Priya mentioned discovery. Then she signed. Lucas waited until everyone else left the room. Priya stayed beside me. He looked smaller now. "Ava," he said, "is there any way, after all of this, that one day you could forgive me?" I thought about it, not because he deserved the silence, because I deserved the truth. "One day I may stop feeling pain when I remember you," I said. "Do not confuse that with forgiveness." He swallowed. "And do not confuse forgiveness with access." His eyes lowered. I walked out first. 2 weeks later, I received the keys to Hale Mansion. The handover happened on a cold morning. No drama was scheduled. Naturally, the Hales brought some. Eleanor stood in the foyer in a black coat, watching movers carry boxes toward a truck. Lucas was outside near the fountain. Serena sat in a car, refusing to look at me. The house smelled like dust, lemon polish, and defeat. Eleanor held out the keys, her hand trembled. I took them, she said. You will never understand what this house meant. I looked around at the staircase, at the portraits, at the cracked plaster, at the rooms that had swallowed my money and returned contempt. I understand exactly what it meant, I said. That is why I will make it useful. Her eyes narrowed. Useful? Yes. I put the keys in my pocket. It has been a monument to your family long enough. The first thing I removed from the mansion was not a portrait, it was a mirror, the same tall gilt mirror that had stood in the upstairs hall, reflecting generations of hale women descending the staircase in gowns, pearls, and silence. Eleanor had once told me I would take my wedding portrait in front of it. Instead, I watched two movers carry it into storage. Jenna stood beside me with coffee. Symbolic, she said. Practical, it blocks light. Also symbolic, I smiled. Also symbolic. The house was quieter without the Hales in it, not peaceful yet, too much resentment had soaked into the walls. Too many rooms had been preserved for appearances while rot spread behind paint. The west wing needed structural reinforcement. The conservatory had water damage. The library fireplace required careful restoration. Work I understood. Work I could trust. Buildings did not pretend cracks were love, they showed you where repair was needed. 3 months after the cancelled wedding, the legal settlement was finalized. Lucas agreed to repay the documented personal loans. Over time, not all the money I had spent would return. Some payments had been too informal, too blurred by emotion and future plans. Priya warned me early that law could not refund every version of myself I had given away. I accepted that. The point was not to become untouched. The point was to become unreachable by the same hands. Serena paid a smaller settlement for the dress damage and unauthorized use after her attorney convinced her a trial would expose more than she wanted. She and Lucas did not become the romantic victims she had tried to sell online. Reality was less flattering. A baby did not turn betrayal into destiny. Pregnancy did not make a woman kind. Guilt did not make a man loyal. They moved into a rented townhouse outside the city. Lucas took a consulting job through an old family contact. Eleanor stayed with her sister and resigned from 2 charity boards after donors began asking too many questions. No one was ruined beyond survival. That mattered to me. I had not wanted destruction. For its own sake, I wanted consequence. The final court appearance was brief. Lucas was there, Serena was not, Eleanor was not. He wore a dark suit and looked almost like the man from my memories, except memory had better lighting. After the signatures, Priya stepped out to take a call, leaving us at opposite ends of a courthouse hallway. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then Lucas said, "The house looks good." I looked at him. "You drove by?" He nodded, embarrassed. "Once. Do not make a habit of it." "I will not." Silence. Then he reached into his pocket and took out the engagement ring. I should have returned this sooner. I stared at it. The diamond caught the fluorescent light without warmth. For months I had wondered what I would feel when I saw it again. Grief, anger, nostalgia. Instead I felt distance, clean, blessed distance. He held it out. "I know it does not fix anything." "No," I said, "it does not." I took it not because I wanted it but because it was mine to decide. Lucas's eyes were wet. "I did love you, Ava." I believed him. That was the saddest part. He had loved me in the limited way a selfish man could love a generous woman. He had loved the comfort of me, the competence of me, the way I made his life easier and his family look steadier. Maybe there had been real tenderness inside that, maybe not. It no longer changed the ending. "I loved you too," I said. His face opened. I continued, "But I will never again build a life where love requires me to disappear." He looked down. "I know." I closed my hand around the ring. "Goodbye, Lucas." This time he did not follow. Back at the mansion, sunlight poured through the cleaned front windows. The Bennett House project had already begun. That was the new name. Not officially at first, just a label on documents, then a sign, then a website, then a thing people said without hesitation. The plan was simple. The East Wing would become offices for the Preservation Trust. The library would host free legal and financial literacy workshops for women leaving controlling relationships. The conservatory would become a public event space whose rental income supported restoration apprenticeships. The bridal suite, as Jenna jokingly called one upstairs sitting room, would become a design studio. No weddings for the first year. That was my only rule. On the day the first sign went up, Jenna brought champagne. Priya came in heels unsuitable for gravel and complained the whole way up the drive. Marla arrived with a garment box. Inside was my wedding dress, restored as much as possible, not perfect. The back seam still held the faintest evidence of damage if you knew where to look. Marla had cried when she showed me. I could not make it what it was, she said. I touched the repaired silk. No, I said. But neither could they. We did not hang it in a closet, we did not preserve it like a relic. With Marla's help, I had the usable fabric transformed. Part became a framed textile piece for the design studio, my grandmother's initials visible in the corner. Part became small ivory ribbons tied around the first scholarship certificates issued by the trust. Not bridal, not ruined, repurposed. The engagement ring went last. I sold it through a jeweler and donated the proceeds to the legal workshop fund. When the receipt arrived, I placed it in the same file as the dress settlement and the final loan agreement. Then I closed the file for good. 6 months after the wedding that never happened, I stood on the front steps of the mansion as the first group of workshop attendees arrived. Women of different ages stepped out of cars carrying notebooks, tote bags, nervous smiles, and histories I did not need to know. To respect, one woman paused at the bottom of the steps and looked up at the house. "This place is beautiful," she said. I looked at the stone facade, the repaired windows, the open doors. For the first time I agreed without pain. "Yes," I said, "it is now." That evening, after everyone left, I walked through the empty foyer. My footsteps echoed, not lonely, clear. I climbed the staircase slowly. At the landing, there was no gilt mirror now, no hale bride staring back, no future mother-in-law measuring my worth by silence, no man waiting at the bottom asking me to make myself smaller for his comfort. Only light, only space, only a house that no longer belonged to people who mistook possession for legacy. My phone buzzed once, an unknown number. For a second, old instinct stirred, then I read the message. It was from Lucas. "I heard about the workshop. You did something good with the house." I waited for pain. It did not come. I typed only one word, yes, then I blocked the number. Outside, dusk settled over the lawn. The mansion lights came on one by one, not for a wedding, not for a family name, not for a man who had asked me to give away my dress and call it kindness. They came on because I chose them, because I paid the bills, because I held the keys, because I had finally learned the difference between being loved and being used. I walked downstairs, locked the front door, and placed the keys in my coat pocket. They were heavier than my engagement ring had ever been, and they fit my hand perfectly.